Welcome to the Tuesday Huddle, a brief reflection on Sunday's message at Walnut Hill Church in Lexington, Kentucky. Each week, we revisit the heart of the sermon and consider how God's Word meets us in the days ahead. Thanks for listening. Let's continue the conversation.
Well, hello there and happy Monday to you. It is March the 23rd, 2026. My name is Sean Barkley. I'm here with my colleague, Jessica.
Yes, it is the 23rd. I'm glad I finally know the date. Apparently, didn't know it when I wrote the bulletin.
Well, I didn't know it either because I had it the 23rd all day yesterday.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
in fact, tomorrow is the 24th of March. That is the anniversary of my first date with my wife.
Oh, what a good
March
day.
21st, yeah. So we'll do something to celebrate that. Probably come here to church and work, do something fun like that.
Well, good. At least
We'll
we'll
have
have fun
fun.
together. We'll have fun together.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, welcome to our podcast, wherever you happen to be. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We're at Walnut Hill Church. We're up on the hill, and are just so glad that you're with us. If you have not yet worshiped with us yesterday, you're certainly invited to go to our church Facebook page or our website and hop on that and worship. We are in John chapter 14. If you are ready to roll, let's go. So, Jessica, you seem like you've got some things you want to talk about.
I have a lot of notes in front of me. So I went down an internet rabbit hole. Well, not really an internet rabbit hole, a biblical rabbit hole, because
Betty.
you brought up the Council of Nicaea.
325.
Yes. And so you will not believe this. This is what AJ is Sean's wife, of course, she calls a God wink.
Okay.
So it's a simultaneous thing that you wouldn't expect to happen. I was watching a show last night on PBS called The Sunken Basilica.
Oh, it sounds exciting. Watching the NCAA tournament. We're watching.
I did watch. I'm sorry, cats. Just put that in there. That was tragic. It was the second basilica, and guess where it was?
Nicaea.
Nicaea. And so the researchers were trying to see if possibly this could have been the location for the Council of Nicaea.
Okay.
It was really interesting because it was a 4th century, maybe early 5th century building. They think maybe it was built on top of where they might have convened. So it's really interesting. If you are like me and kind of a history nerd, Secrets of the Dead on PBS, The Sunken Basilica, very interesting. And again, they didn't know it was even around until 2014. 3 journalists did a helicopter ride over the area and they saw it. In 2014, it was one of the top 10 discoveries of the Archaeological Institute of America. So it's really cool.
The sunken basilica.
Yes.
Okay.
And now they're saying it was probably built for Saint Neophytos. Is that how you pronounce it? Neophytos.
I mean, I know what a neophyte is.
But it was a child who was killed in 303 AD when Diocletian was cleaning out Christianity or trying to clear it out. And so they raised that in the late 4th century. And then Nicaea came in 325.
Well, that's right. The council, because the churches were just disparate groups of believers. And, if you don't have any kind of central authority to watch over these churches, I mean, they can go on their own directions. And you can get like a really charismatic leader who can lead a church astray. And so they were finding that. And so they're just looking at, hey, who is this Jesus Christ? There were heresies developing that, he was a ghost, he wasn't real, or that he was just a human, he was subordinate to God. And so they leaned heavily on texts such as John 14.
Right. And I read that Arius from Alexandria. Yeah, he was the one that was saying, no, he was created, he's human. And so that's the reason that everyone came in. I also thought it was interesting that it's called one of the first ecumenical gatherings because Walnut Hill is ecumenical. It's something we're really proud of here. And so I just found that really interesting.
The Arianism has never really disappeared. I mean, there have been people, and even people today, maybe people who even have listened to the sermon, who would say, Jesus was one of many kind of folks who God used in that way. But as far as biblical authority goes, which is what I rely on, I don't see that there's anyone like him. And I believe that, in fact, when I read the Old Testament, I see him all over the Old Testament too.
Oh, absolutely. You see kind of the foreshadowing, I think. I have to say, even in this passage, if you go forward to 25, he does kind of can make it a little confusing sometimes when he says that I am the way and the truth and the light.
Right.
But then, so past 25, sorry, it's 28. I am going to the Father because the Father is greater than I. It makes them sound separate. So, how do theologians react to that?
Well, they are separate persons of the same being. And so the Nicene Creeds, and for quoting that, talks about them being of the same substance. And they are of the same substance, but they're also distinct. They're three distinct persons of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so they're connected and yet they're different. And it again, that's a divine mystery that people have been grappling with for centuries and centuries. I mean, 325,
Right.
see, they're grappling with that. And so he never equated himself with the Father in terms of being exactly the same. They're of the same substance. But he does also say, I and the Father are one.
Yes.
And so, some might read that one chord, but there is just this notion that there's this mystical connection between Jesus Christ and the Father.
Right. It's consubstantial, is what
Yes.
I read. Yeah. It's of the same substance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that was exciting.
It was for me. I mean, I love history. So,
Right.
anytime I get to jump into that,
And then Constantinople was in 381, I believe. Having notes in front of me.
yeah, about 60
381.
years later. So, what did they cover there?
Basically, they ratified the Council of Nicaea's work, and then they did some editing and some additions to it. And again, different bishops. I mean, I don't know that there are any people who are both, but again, looking at the same material. From that point, though, that was pretty well established. This is what we believe about Jesus Christ.
Mm.
Um,
So, I do have a question, and this is since we just said neophytos or neophytos, because I am a neophyte at a lot of this. So, in the Nicene Creed, we do say, I believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. So, I feel like some sects of the Christian church would stop there because it's saying that we are of the Catholic Church when most Protestant churches have
right.
very clearly decided to take a right turn.
There's a distinction. So it doesn't say the Roman Catholic Church. And so the word Catholic is from the Greek root katholios, which means universal. And so it's the one universal church. And so Roman Catholics are included in the one universal church, as are Presbyterians. So, yeah, we just believe that God has one church and there are different branches and different areas of emphasis, but then we're all the body of Christ. And so that language, it has tripped people up over the years. I mean, leading the Apostles' Creed for 30 plus years as a pastor, I've had people say, I'm not going to say I believe in the Catholic Church. I'm like, you do believe in the Catholic Church. It's just the Roman Catholic Church you might not be aligned with. But ultimately, we're in the same family.
Well, that makes sense.
Mhm. And so, anyway, what about John chapter 14? Hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. That's verse number 1. I wanted to draw out the notion, the importance of the heart. Jesus talked about the heart a lot. It's interesting. So in the Bible, the soul was not located in the heart. The soul for the Hebrews was located in the blood. So that's where the soul was. The heart was sort of the center of your mental and emotional activity, but your soul is in your blood, which is why we talk about the blood of the Lamb
Oh, interesting.
and we talk about the blood of Christ. And so that's what the Hebrews believe to be the location of the soul. It's in your blood.
Okay. Yeah, I thought of it further forward when they used to bloodlet if they thought your humors, quote unquote, were off. And so but that makes sense that it started way back then.
So when he talks about your heart being troubled, of course, the idea of being troubled is it's being churned up. And I use the image of water that's foaming, it's roiling and churning. And try to ask folks to think about, do you find yourself being troubled? I think a lot of us find ourselves troubled. I think I'm stuck on that theme right now. I'm getting off of it though, just because maybe I read too much news, but I find myself just stuck on the theme of, are you troubled? Are you confused? Are you angry?
I was going to say, any reason why, Sean?
You know, I do read, I think I've shared, I don't watch the news at all.
Mm,
I read news every day. I read 6 newspapers every morning. And there is a large segment of our country who's very troubled.
yes.
There's a large segment that's not. And 3 years from now, when there's a new administration in Washington, D.C., there'll be 50% of the population is troubled, and the other half will not be troubled. Sometimes they switch places based on who's there. And so I feel a lot of that turmoil when I talk with folks. So I've been stuck on that a little bit. What's the text that kind of given me that? Don't let your heart be troubled. And then, of course, he contrasts that with, hey, believe in God, believe also in me. And then he begins to project into the future in verse 2, as we talked about yesterday, in my Father's house. And the idea is, I believe he's talking about our heavenly home rather than the temple or tabernacle. But so he's departing. And the image we used yesterday was an expected couple preparing a nursery for a baby.
Yes.
I am going to prepare a place for you. Just because you don't sing doesn't mean I'm not thinking about you or working for you. I am going to prepare a place. I talked about gender reveal parties. Have you ever heard of a gender
Goodness.
reveal party? You had one.
No. And thankfully, I have not been to one.
Why do you say thankfully?
I don't know. I mean, it just
People having them all over the country.
if you have a gender reveal party, do you also have a baby shower? Are we celebrating too much, Sean? I don't know. It should
Is there such a thing as
is
celebrating?
that's true. That's also
I
a good question.
Yeah. So that image that he is departing his disciples, and remember, they're like already despondent because he says, I'm going away from you. Somebody's going to betray me. You're going to deny you even know me. And so he's giving them all that bad news. And of course, he's the one who's going to go through all the terrible stuff. And yet he's comforting them. But he says, I am leaving you, but I'm coming back. And so the idea is you trust me. I don't think my home alone illustration landed yesterday. I was trying to just make the point that little boy just felt like he had been left alone at home,
Yeah.
abandoned.
Yes.
Everybody's gone. And you wonder if the disciples are feeling abandoned by Jesus. And of course, he's saying, no, the goal is we're always going to be together.
I'm sure they do. If
Yeah.
you've been following this person who you're calling your brother for that long, and then all of a sudden he's like, and I'm going to check out.
Yep.
Oof, I can't imagine. That's called an abandonment wound.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. And so Thomas has been all upset. And
Mhm.
I almost feel the hysteria in his voice. You know, where are you going? We all know where you're going. How can we know the way? I mean, you feel like it was almost kind of rapid fire. And it's a great question. What we said yesterday was it'd be like someone saying, hey, we're going on a road trip today. And the other person saying, well, where are we going? They're like, well, you know where we're going. And then Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And what I wanted to draw out yesterday was that he is not only the destination, he's also the path on the way. You know, he's not some spiritual guru who's going to show you the way. He's saying, I am the way. I'm going to take a deep breath and let you talk.
Oh,
We're at the-
goodness. Okay. Let's see. Where do I want to go with that? One of the other questions I had, and it ties in with history, but it also ties in here, of course, because John having written this, several decades after Christ's death, and this is very tangential.
Mhm.
Why did the gospel writers wait so long to write their books after his death? Why didn't they do it right then? Would their memory have been better?
Well, first of all, several of them were not around to firsthand witness Jesus. Matthew was certainly there, but Luke wasn't there. Mark was just a young guy. He was connected loosely with some of the people who were around Jesus. And of course, John was there. I don't know why they did. Maybe there was no energy, or maybe no one was asking them to write it down. I don't know. Hmm. That is an interesting question, isn't it?
It is.
What and maybe it just went on the radar. Hey, I need to write all this stuff down. I mean, it was a kind of a verbal tradition that was passed on from person to person. And eventually, Paul started writing his letters, and they're like, we need to go ahead and just have an orderly account of who this Jesus Christ was. Yeah.
No.
And my hunch is that at least John and Matthew, who knew him, were taking notes. I really believe that. I think that Matthew, being a tax collector, was obviously very detail oriented, and I bet he was jotting down.
That's true.
So, yeah, I don't know. It did take a lot.
Yes.
Right.
And you wonder.
Now, did they lose any good information? My hunch is that they got around their friends and said, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember that? They collaborated.
That makes sense.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But going back to the passage, I liked when you brought up Eric Erickson and said that he has those two end of life feelings. One is integrity, one is despair. And having despair, if you built that life on things that aren't trustworthy. And so I think here, of course, Jesus is telling us where to put our ladder, so to speak. You brought up the great analogy of you're climbing a ladder, but it's on the wrong building.
Climbing your work hour, spending the energy. And
So for me, a lot of times the passages are I find them difficult or kind of they could go so many different ways, but this to me seems very clear what he's telling
It
us.
does. In fact, it's a challenge to preach because typically in a sermon, I like to have a little bit of a to-do list as far as, all right, here's some things that we're being called to do and God is asking us to do. Here, it's just purely, are you going to be troubled or trusting? And what does that look like in your life? So it was a very sort of a personal, reflective sermon. And I tried to tee that up yesterday by saying, when we worship, and as a pastor, it's a challenge. I don't get to worship very often because I'm too in my own head about what's going to happen. And I don't like that. Every once in a while, I'll watch one of our services and try to remove myself from it and just worship.
I bet you do feel like that because I even feel like that as an administrator. I am looking at what's going around the church if someone needs something. And so I have gotten to the point where I rewatch on Mondays because I just get to actually listen to and kind of be in the word and the
Right.
scripture so much more. So
Mhm.
I can totally
Oh, yeah.
you must miss it
I
sometimes.
mean this, yeah. Every once in a while, well, typically I have 5 or 6 Sundays off, and maybe Joe and I go to church, even though, it'd be like if you're an attorney and you got a day off, do you go to court and watch someone? I mean,
I was gonna say, do you feel like an undercover cop when you go?
you really have to battle, be critical,
Yes.
and not critical in a negative way. Just, I mean, kind of just critiquing the whole thing. I mean, what's good, what's not, what works, what doesn't, and you have to remove yourself from that. But when I worship, I will always want to be focused on God and focused on Christ. But is also spiritual health and wellness check. Each sermon, if we're not asking someone to do something, it's a moment of, hey, let's just kind of check ourselves. And so I even had someone text me this morning, new to our church, say, hey, that idea of climbing the ladder only to find it's leaning against the wrong building was helpful for me. And so it was more reflective. But yeah, it's a straightforward passage.
Yeah, and sorry, I totally took you off our
No,
topic,
I'm enjoying it.
but we were at Erickson and talking about despair and integrity. One of the things I love is even further down 14:12, and we've done this verse before, I remember it because I remember the sermon on it, but very truly I tell you that one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact, will do greater works than these.
Because I'm one with the Father.
Yes.
And I don't know what to do with that. There's a part of me that wants to talk about how Jesus touched these 12 and by extension, a few others. And now the church has touched hundreds of millions over the years. So for me, it's almost like a corporate thing. Like as my body, you will do more than even I did. But he does say, the one who believes in me will do the works that I do. In fact, will do greater works than these.
Yeah.
What do you think those might be?
I mean, I take it kind of as an individualistic
Mhm,
thing, as if you trust that I am the way and the truth and the life,
mhm,
you're going to go on to do things I couldn't do during my time on earth.
mhm.
I mean, certainly he does them other ways, but and acting through us.
Yeah,
And so I just love that idea. I love the idea that we can do great things in his name and he wants that.
he does.
Yeah.
It even kind of qualifies it. If you ask in my name, and of course, the idea of asking in his name is asking in a way that's aligned with who he is. He's not gonna, I'm speaking for the Almighty here, which is dangerous. But I don't believe if we ask God, I want you to give me $500 million, he's going to do that because that's not in his will for us. It's not asking in his name. It's not aligned with who he is. But if we ask, God, will you increase my wisdom and my compassion? I believe God does that.
I think he does. And like our church, I guess the effect we're having in our community, I think we worked with Brenda Counter for a long time. We still do. We love them. But there's been other schools that have needed help. And we've kind of been introduced to that through our work with Brenda
Yeah.
Cowan. We've seen the need has expanded. And so
Right.
we're gonna start working with Mill Creek Elementary. But I think those are some of the greater works we get to help
Yeah,
with.
absolutely. I mean, when he is making this statement, he is still bound by a human body. He can only be in one place at one time. His believers are all over the creation. Well, any other words of wisdom or final thoughts from this very straightforward passage, Jesse?
Gosh, no, I mean, I enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't feel great yesterday. I drive me nuts this time of
I loved the
football.
history and just the thoughts and bringing in Erickson and, of course, Anastasia.
Loved Anastasia.
Yes.
I almost said her last name. I was like,
No, don't reveal it.
somewhere.
And if you haven't listened to the sermon, please go back, if not for the message, but for the story.
Golly, she was wonderful. She grabbed that bag, and I mean, she just would put it right in it, gets the ball, and she's afraid she's gonna hurt the ball.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, you put everything into that swing, and then got so excited, jumped up and down and ran to her own base.
Well, you know,
But she did say, "I love you, Coach Sean." I was
there
like,
you go.
"Well,
The intent
you
was there, the intent was there. And I'm sure God knew.
that's all right. Well, thank you
Yes.
for that, and for those of you who, listen to us, appreciate you doing that. Feel free to share this, pass it along. We are at Palm Sunday this week, so it's Mark chapter 11, verses 1 through 10.
I can't believe we're there already.
We're there.
Goodness.
It's gonna scrim. I mean, since stewardship in October,
Yes.
Advent, Christmas, and now Lent and Easter, it's been a 6-month sprint.
Yeah.
So we're good though. All right. Well, you have a wonderful week. You take good care, and bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Tuesday Huddle. If Sunday's message encouraged you, we invite you to watch the full service or explore more at walnuthillchurchky.org. Join us this week and next Sunday as we continue to grow together in faith.